All right, I want to continue the conversation about these progressive failures that are just destroying the country with my good friend, Congressman Byron Donalds of the great state of Florida. Byron, thank you for coming back on. I mean, you know, progressive failures, Guy Benson was talking about that. You know Guy Benson. He was talking about the horrible, horrible story about the young woman, the late young woman who was killed in Georgia. But the guy came in from Venezuela illegally. Then he commits a crime in New York, and they release him because of these progressive judges and George Soros district attorneys. And there is no law and order because of the progressives. And we have a woke culture because of the progressives. And we spend and borrow too much, and we have inflation. Rich Lowry was just here talking about a $17 bill for a McDonald's milkshake and French fries. People can't afford to live in the Biden economy because of progressives. And my thought, Byron, is just to make things real simple, because I'm a very simple person, I think this country is going to vote against progressive policies across the board.
I agree with you, Larry. I think, look, the progressives have been wanting control. They've been wanting to institute their policy agenda in this country for decades. And through Joe Biden, and I will also add, starting with Barack Obama, but with Joe Biden, they've been able to accomplish a good portion of it. And it sucks. It's terrible, Larry. Look, immigration policy is the one that everybody can see. The tragedy that happened in Georgia, but also the tragedy that's happening all over the country. We've had now 200,000 people die from fentanyl overdoses because of Joe Biden's progressive policies. There are young girls who are sold into sex slavery every single day by the drug cartels because of Joe Biden's reckless policies and these progressive policies. You have situations where there are migrants who have died in the back of tractor trailers down in Texas because of these terrible progressive policies. They do not work. They just breed destruction. They breed death, and they overwhelm cities. Every major city, including New York, is now overrun and overwhelmed. You know, Larry, these policies, what does this mean in the life of a young child growing up in the inner city? The progressives locked them out of the classroom for a year to 2 years because of COVID-19, ignoring the realities that kids are far less susceptible to the worst elements of COVID-19. They kept them out of a classroom. Those kids fell behind. And now when they're back in the classroom, finally, Joe Biden and the radical Democrats put migrants in these classrooms. So these kids now fall further behind. None of this stuff works. And we just talked about one policy, Larry. We haven't gotten to the rest of them.
Well, of course, I mean, look, whether you call them liberal or progressive or ultra-liberal or radical, I mean, this vast spending and borrowing, which has caused inflation, which has made the economy unaffordable for typical working families and for low-income families and, frankly, for Black American and Hispanic families and Asian families. It's made it, you can't live here. Then, of course, there's no law and order. The education system has deteriorated. The culture has been completely impeached and destroyed. People don't even teach history anymore. And the border every day is another border story. People are getting killed left and right, either from murderers coming across the line or drug smugglers or you name it. I mean, I think, you know, Byron, this is not going to be about Democrats and Republicans, independents. This is going to be about liberals and the failure of their ultra-progressive policies. And that's going to break through in a complete realignment, which has been one of the themes of this show.
Larry, I totally agree with you. Look, you have a situation where what people really want is common sense.
Yes.
So much was made about President Trump's speech in South Carolina Friday night. I was there. I was on stage with the president. A lot of what he talked about were common sense policies. You know, not so much even being conservative, just being common sense. Let's do the things that we know work in this country, and then we could figure out the other issues that happen just through normal everyday life. Like, we're on Fox Business. Larry, you have a great show. Let's talk about bank capital for a moment, something that most people don't focus on. The Treasury Department and the Fed, they want to raise bank capital. Well, what's that going to do? It's going to make it harder for small businesses to raise capital, Larry, and raise loans and get money into their business.